Hi there, welcome to Talk Canicross. I'm Janetta George.
And I'm Gail Walker. We're here today to talk all things Canicross, the fun way to get fit with your dog.
So each month we'll be joined by a special guest or two. We'll hear from professionals, regular Canicrossers, and also dog and human experts in their field. It will be real people and real stories.
So we hope you'll join us, whether it's for training tips, dog talk, or just for fun and encouragement. This is Talk Canicross, brought to you by DogFit. And don't forget to hit subscribe and keep in touch with all things Canicross. So hi, we're really pleased to have Sarah Gillam with us today. If you happen to have listened to episode 33 of our podcast series, you may recall that Sarah represents GB in Canicross, along with her wonderful dogs, Poppy and Sonic. She's the current British Canicross champion, in fact, the last 2 years in succession. And is also a personal trainer and a DogFit trainer as well. So lots of things in her repertoire. Sarah has literally just come back from the prestigious TDM in the French Alps. And it's widely regarded as one of Canicross's toughest events that's going. So it consists of 8 really challenging events over 7 days. So it's very intensive. And you have people traveling from all over the world, mostly Europe, to take part. So it's very highly regarded. So anyway, Janetta and I thought we'd take advantage of Sarah being in her rest and recovery phase, because we know you're a really busy lady, and we wanted to invite you along today, obviously, to tell us all about this event and hopefully inspire some of our listeners today. So anyway, it's great to have you here, Sarah. So first of all, congratulations on completing the TDM and achieving an incredible first place in your age category. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. No, thanks for having me here, guys. I'm excited to talk about it. You might have to shut me up.
How are you feeling after the event? You fully recovered?
Pretty good in general. Like, I think my legs and my body recovered like physically quite quickly, but actually I have been super tired this week. I don't know if it's also like the adrenaline come down and the long drive home and everything too, but I've definitely been quite tired.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's lovely to have you on the show again, and really excited to hear about it all. But for those listening that don't know what the TDM is, could you give us a bit of a brief outline, what's involved, where it is, and and how long it was for?
Yep, sure. So TDM stands for Trophée de Montagnes in my terrible French. Basically,
that's why I didn't say. I was hoping you might. Nice one, thank you.
A beautiful stage race in the French Alps, close to, I usually say like Alpe d'Huez, because that's where a lot of people have heard of, in that sort of region. And it takes place normally actually the last weekend and first week of August. That's when it normally takes place. This year it was a bit later. And yeah, this year it was 8 stages in 7 days. Previously it has been even 10 stages in 9 days, but that gives you a rough idea. So yeah, basically you're running every morning. Sometimes you get double days, so you have like a night race as well. And yeah, it's amazing. Like, people from all over Europe go there. There's a lovely mixture of dogs and humans, and the scenery you get with the runs, yeah, is obviously just incredible.
How many people do you think were competing then?
I think this year, because they were a bit late, 1, releasing the dates, and 2, they'd pushed it back, they had less than normal. I think it was maybe on the adult side, I would say like 150 teams, whereas often it's up to about 300.
Right. Amazing. And everybody drives and camps there, so it must be a really nice atmosphere.
Yeah, and there's a kids race as well, actually. So some of the little kids run as well. So a lot of people go with their whole families. It's kind of like a summer holiday, because once you're done with the run in the morning, you've basically got the rest of the day to relax. So
yeah, lovely.
Who would you say is more competitive, the juniors or the adults?
The adults.
Yeah. and were there some people running with 2 dogs, or are they all just single dogs?
No, I think you're only allowed to run with 1 dog.
Yeah,
at a time. So you can have like a pool of 2 dogs, so you can go register 2 dogs and you can kind of alternate which one you run with, but you can only run with 1 at once.
Yeah, so you did that with Poppy and Sonic, didn't you?
Yeah, I knew I was I'd mainly been doing my training and everything leading up to it with Poppy. She's smaller and just much more reliable on the trails. Yeah, so I was only really planning on pulling I called him my wild card Sonic out for the 2 of the stages.
Love that. So tell us about Sonic. Tell us about your 2 dogs, because I know you've been on our podcast before, but for anyone who hasn't listened, do you want to tell us about Poppy and Sonic, their ages and a bit about their personalities?
Yeah, so Poppy, she's quite a small female Scandinavian hound. She's 5 now this summer, so like she's got like a good amount of experience, but still quite a nice age. And yeah, she's just the best trail partner because she's small but mighty. She will pull and pull and pull me up the hills. Yeah, on the downhills, it's easier to run with her, and I have finally cracked the sort of back command. When I say back, she'll run by my side and sort of constantly try and trip me up, but at least she's not out the front like pulling me down. So yeah, that's Poppy. Her focus on the trail is unbelievable. So with sort of difficult starts or more people or overtaking and everything, I can trust her 100%. So yeah, she was amazing to run with. And then there's Sonic, or I call him Supersonic. He's younger. He's only 3. He thinks he's still about 18 months. I think he'll forever act like a puppy. He's nearly 10 kilos heavier than Poppy, so he's strong.
Yeah.
And he is unbelievable on the uphills. He was just like incredible, an absolute beast. But on the downhills, he wasn't really liking the back command, and I haven't really like properly trained it yet. So yeah, that was very challenging, but it was still like super cool, and I'm glad I did run with him out there.
Yeah, you must have a super strong core.
I think that's
still pulling you down the hill. You're obviously.
I think that's lacking at the moment. I think after the run after him, I had like strong like vocal cords from shouting at him so much to try and get behind me.
Oh gosh. So how does someone go about entering the TDM? How are there prerequisites? How do you
Yeah, so good news is like anyone can enter. Normally, I don't know what time of year they open it, probably about springtime they normally open the entry. And yeah, usually it sells out within a few hours, so you have to be quick and just get online and register. Yeah, like I said, this year it was all quite late, so it was a little bit different. But yeah, so normally people sign up beforehand and you sign up for the whole stage race. What you can do as well is they accept entries for like individual stages when you're there. So it might be that you're out there and then you want to just enter like the first 2 races or the last 3 races, and there's normally 3 different regions, so you kind of move around different like parts to different mountains, and you can sort of enter stage or region by region.
Yeah, brilliant.
But does everyone is it mandatory to wear the GB kit then in this race?
No, it's not. So you're entering as an individual kind of competitor, but because there is like obviously a lot of different nationalities, it's quite nice to represent and wear your kit. There is a good number of GB people this year, but not as many as previously. Like honestly, I think Brexit and everything is making it just more difficult and more expensive to travel as well, which is a bit of a shame. But no, I try to sort of document a lot, and I hope this as well will inspire more people to go.
Yeah, well, we've been following your Instagram stories, and
that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like I was almost there, and I'm also glad I wasn't at the same time, because it sounds it's so hard, but it's so lovely because you talk about the dogs and you really gave a real good synopsis of each stage. And I think if anyone was thinking about taking part, definitely go and check out your Instagram feed. Which we will share with everybody, but I think that's a great way to sort of promote it as well. And you clearly had a brilliant time, and it must have been an amazing feeling to represent GB and be over there with the dogs.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and yeah, there was only like a small selection of us there, so it was nice to meet some different people from GB as well, and had like good competition with people from France and Belgium, and yeah, just met new people, and everyone's there for the same reason. It's just like a lovely atmosphere.
with all those lovely dogs. So obviously preparing for something of that magnitude and that's going over that number of days, how did you go about that? And we know that you're a PT anyway, but presumably you set yourself quite a kind of stringent schedule to get you and the dogs up to that capacity.
Yeah, so I mean, honestly speaking, my training wasn't great leading up to this one. Like last year, I trained really hard. I had a good 3-month training program leading up to it. All went well, and then those that know the story, I broke my hand a couple of days before it all started. So this year, I think I was so nervous and excited about even getting to the start line. I just didn't put so much pressure on myself with training so much. I had a very good level of fitness, and I'd just done like a trail marathon. So my body was really used to training probably like 5-6 times a week. So that like running on consecutive days. But I've been doing a lot of like longer, slow runs. And I definitely actually missed the Canicross side and the speed side. So I actually kind of like put myself on a little training camp, and I was lucky that I could take 6 days, about a week, to go to North Wales.
That's hilly.
Which I found out is very hilly. And I've got a great friend over there, Bryony. She's actually also a DogFit trainer, and she lives there now. So she was like kind enough to just show me some of the incredible trails.
Wow.
And that's what you just don't get here, is like the up, up, up rather than the up, down, up, down.
Yeah.
So some really good climbs. And I was unlucky, but actually lucky for the dogs, had like horrific weather. It was that week in July when, in fact, all of July was quite bad, wasn't it? It just rained like every day. And in North Wales, it was really cold. So I didn't even have to get up early to run. I could basically run at any time of the day, and it was like cold and rainy, which is perfect for the dogs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a really good training there, mainly running with Poppy, but Sonic got a lot of like hikes in the harness, so that probably did help his fitness quite a bit as well.
Yeah. And at the TDM, are the events kind of different distances as well? Is it the same? Is it like 5K, 2K?
Yeah, so I'd say 5K is sort of the average, 5.5 maybe.
Yeah.
The shortest is 3.8K, and the longest, well, was meant to be about 8K, but actually because of the warm temperatures, that got shortened and was about 5.5 as well.
Yeah.
And then the difference is the elevation. So I think the minimum elevation gain you had was about 180 over that short run, and then you got up to about 450 on some of the longer ones.
Wow. Yeah, lots of uphill.
Yeah, lots of uphill. So you were saying about your training, and you were doing a number of days a week because you were doing your marathon training. But how much of that was with the dogs, and also obviously that bit is off road, and was all of your own training with or without, even without the dogs, was that all off road as well?
I would say I do and did like 90% of my training off road. Occasionally it's good to have like a speed session or a hard like interval or tempo, something on the road, or even I did a few track sessions here or there. But I think training specificity is like a really good part leading up to it, which obviously is why I went to Wales, but also even around here, I'm running on the trails. You feel like you're running slowly, but it's just more like replicable to what you're going to get out there. So yeah, lots of hills. I did do boring like up and down hill sessions, lots of undulating runs. I wasn't running loads with the dogs, to answer your question about Canicross, because it did fall later this year, kind of mid-end August. It was quite warm leading up to that, so it was difficult training with the dogs. I trained a lot with Poppy, I'd say late spring, early summer. Before it got warm, so I knew she sort of had a good base fitness, but we did sort of have to do a bit of a blast in Wales and over a few weeks leading up to it just to get their fitness up. I also train them a lot just through hiking, like in the harness, because when they've got the mindset, both Poppy and Sonic, that they will pull all the time, even if I'm not running. So honestly, going for a hike with them is horrible because they're pulling me the whole way, but I'm obviously resisting them, and that's actually making it harder work for them. So I think that did actually condition them quite well.
What about conditioning for them for the temperature though? I mean, because obviously did a bit of training in Wales, it was a bit cooler, but when you go over to the TDM, it's in August, can be very warm, hot. So
It,
how do
it
you
was
manage that
it
with
was
the dog?
super hot. Like
Mhm.
I think you can only condition the dogs to a certain degree, and I guess that was a little bit the difference. Even in Wales when I was training, it's more steady run. You're not flat out, and I was stopping whenever I needed to stop to give the
Yeah.
dogs a drink and everything. Um, the difference in France, like, so there was a heat wave on, and I mean, honestly, during the day it was awful. Like, I was pretty much hibernating in the day because it was too hot to really do anything. But in the mornings, it's so cool. It's so different. I mean, we're often at an elevation of, I think, like 1,700 meters. And normally the runs were scheduled to start at 9, but for all of the races, they pulled it forward. So they were starting at between 7 and 7:30, which was before the sun. The sun's risen, but it's not above the mountain. And the humidity out there, I actually did a bit of a comparison because a lot of people were asking about it that were following on Instagram. And the humidity is so much lower there than it was in England, even though it was sort of a lot like 10 degrees colder here. So and I think, well, personally for my dogs, the humidity I think is what gets them more than the heat, the temperature.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's an interesting point, and that's one thing that, you know, in the height of the summer in France, you think it's far too hot, but you know, that's really good to hear. But it's such an expedition to take the dogs. You obviously drove out in your van with the dogs, the food, all your equipment. I mean, how long did that take, and how much of that, what did you take with you?
Yeah, good question. So I mean, it's just kind of like a glorified race weekend. You just got to like multiply the kit by 7 and yeah, get a bit more prepared with the food for I guess fueling yourself and for recovery. So yeah, I had a few different lists to make sure I wasn't going to be forgetting anything because that's always the fear. But I guess when you're in your van and there's people about, there's always people that can pick up stuff for you. So no, I basically I made sure I had like a spare harness for the dog, spare harness for me, loads of lines. I ordered a load of dog booties actually because the terrain is quite rocky. And I think a lot of the French dogs are used to it, but around here, I think the dogs, paws aren't used to necessarily used to running on rocks all the time. So I had boots for them just to protect them. And then yeah, human kit wise, I've packed so much stuff honestly that I didn't even use, like long sleeve tops and jumpers and anything like that didn't even make it out the bag. Even my running t-shirts and stuff didn't, because what you get with TDM is like a race bib that you wear every day, and like most people will just wear like your bra underneath it and you don't want anything else.
So hot. Yeah.
What harnesses were the dogs running in? So
I'm using iDog.
okay.
iDog so the blue one, it's super adjustable and it's just the one that I've found like fits them quite well. So I've got quite skinny necks but then deep chests and quite long body, so you can adjust it and get a nice fit.
Yeah. And what belt are you wearing?
I use the same. I use the iDog one, the blue one. It's a little bit like people think when you first see it, it's a bit sort of bigger and bulkier than some of the other brands, but it's like such a nice fit on like your lower back or your bottom that you don't get like back pain or anything. It's super comfy once it's worn in.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like anything, the best kit for you and your dogs is the one that you all run comfortably and well in. So which is one of the things we also.
I think that's it as well. I was wearing my belt that's like super worn in and it's like fraying on some of the straps. So I was like, I know that this one fits me well and it's comfortable, and like even adjusting it a tiny bit would ruin it. So I was like, I'm just gonna wear this one. Had a spare one, but then I wore that one every day.
Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it, how sometimes even you have different kit that you train in, that you race in, just because you want to keep it for like the special occasion, and you know that it's, in this, it's going to be comfy, as Janetta said, and works. So going back to the nutrition then, so I'm just curious, just myself, about, obviously it's very intensive over, you're racing every day, albeit you're getting up early and they're not long distances necessarily, but you said about fueling. So how do you manage that, especially with the dogs, because they need their energy for the race in the morning, and then they need obviously the protein intake to recover. So how do you do that for you and your dogs? Is it much the same sort of approach?
Yeah, great question. So, and I think this is one thing that I've focused on quite a lot and it helped me and it helped the dogs a lot. And the first thing I'd say is, obviously, don't try anything new when you're there. Like everything that I did, I made sure I practiced it beforehand. And Wales, when I went there, was really a bit of a test for a lot of that as well, for myself and the dogs. So the dogs, I always fed breakfast, especially Sonic. Like he's terrible at running on an empty stomach. So I just got up, fed them at the same time. But I like to feed them 2 hours before. And I'm not usually very good at early in the morning. So yeah, the 5 a.m. alarm every day to feed them.
Dogs.
Take its toll over 7 days.
Took its toll. And then I was really bad at going to bed like any earlier than normal. So yeah, I wasn't getting enough sleep. But yeah, we can come on to that. No, so I fed them a pretty normal breakfast, slightly less than I would normally, so a little bit lighter in their stomach. And then I was giving them like a pre-drink mixed in with their breakfast 2 hours before. And then after the race, I'd give them kind of like a recovery drink and a bit of wet food, probably like an hour or so after. It would depend a little bit on how they were and how quickly they kind of cooled down and calmed down, but roughly an hour afterwards. So they were always kind of getting the recovery then as well. And then I'd just feed them again in the dinner at dinner time, and maybe that kind of portion would be a little bit bigger to make up for less in the morning. But no, they were sort of eating well, recovering well, which is good. And then for myself, I did test a few things leading into it, actually, because honestly speaking, like for 5K races, you sort of think, I don't need anything for that. It's such a short distance, and you don't from an energy perspective, but from a recovery perspective, I definitely think what I did this time like really helped. So I would also get up and eat breakfast after I'd fed the dogs, and then so that would be about 2 hours before as well. And then I'd also have a carb drink, like kind of a carb and electrolyte drink. Sometimes it had caffeine as well, sometimes not. Probably about between 30-45 minutes before the race, so that you have just got that extra fuel going into the race. And even if you're not using it like all during the race, it's then helping recovery. And then also afterwards, I was having not just a protein drink, but a drink that contained protein and carbs to refuel straight away. And like a lot of the time I was drinking it afterwards, you're knackered and you feel a bit sick, and it's just like, oh, I just don't want this. And I was sort of like forcing it down me. But I definitely think it helped with my recovery, like muscle wise, leg wise. I like day after day, I felt pretty good, and you saw other people like hobbling around that were obviously struggling a lot more. I do think a lot of it was down to that.
Yeah, no, amazing. And out there, it must have been a great. You've touched on it before about the atmosphere with obviously other countries there as well. I mean, what kind of dogs were there? Are they sort of, you know, the Eurohounds and that types, or was there a mix of dogs?
A really nice mix of dogs. You got a bunch of Eurohounds, and then probably quite a lot of pointers, whether they be German short-haired pointers, but also a lot of English pointers. And then I'd say a lot of sort of more trainable dogs, but still athletic, like collies, Australian shepherds, maybe some labs, and then even some smaller dogs. I'm terrible with breeds, but yeah, like some like smaller dogs as well. And that was what was nice. It was such a mixture, and even the people competing at the top, some of them were running with collies and smaller dogs, and not everyone had these sort of like big Eurohounds. So it was a really like nice mixture.
Yeah, that's lovely to hear that they're all given a chance. I mean, I'm sure the collies were a bit hot, the dogs with their longer coats, but yeah, it's nice to hear.
Yeah, I bet it's fun. And yeah, it's good because I think it then makes it more accessible if people are listening to this, and as well as the fact that you can enter, you know, you can go online and enter as long as you're quick, take part. It's very inclusive, which is brilliant, really good. So the TDM itself then, you know, so you've got a number of stages, very intense. So without obviously going into too great detail, because it's quite a lot to cover, but what were each stage like? You know, were there any that really stood out for you as well, like whether good or bad? And did everything go to plan, or were there any sort of like interesting anecdotes and stories to share?
Yeah, no, great question. I'll try and not spend the next half an hour answering it. So yeah, there was planned to be 8 stages. One of them was actually cancelled because it was too warm. So normally they were in the morning. One was a night race, so it didn't go until like, I wasn't running until 10:30, so it also cooled by then. But one of the stages was meant to be at 7 p.m. and it was just too hot then still. So I was super happy that they cancelled it, that one. Yeah, so there were 7 stages. The first region, there were 2 runs. They actually ended up being identical to each other. And those I'd say were the most brutal with regards to the steepness of the climb. I think it was it about a 5k run, but you had 450-meter elevation in just over 2 kilometers. It was just like absolutely brutal.
So they made you repeat it.
Yeah, and then they made you do it again.
That's evil.
So they were definitely the toughest climb. The climb was sort of started on a ski slope, and then you went into the woods, and it was quite like a twisty, nice trail, softer trails through the woods with tree roots and everything, and all shady. So that was nice. And then the downhill was, dare I say, a bit of like a boring, gravelly track, very wide, but so super runnable and like very fast. So that was day 1 and day 2. I ran them both with Poppy. They went quite well. The first day, I think we weren't quite like into it, we weren't quite race ready, and Poppy was like missing her spark, I thought, a bit. No. So on the second day, I think we took about 90 seconds off our time, which I was absolutely delighted about. It kind of showed we were missing a little bit on the first day. So they were good. And then the next region was Alamond, which is the only race in that region. And it's in a valley. So you're down from the mountain. So it's tough, that one, because that is the one that's usually a lot warmer. Like, even if it's not that warm, you're a lot like lower elevation. So yeah, that one was shortened again. That's usually a long one, 7 or 8k, and it was under 5 in the end. Not too much climbing, but a really, really technical downhill, kind of on a camber with scree, so you just feel like you're going to fall off the sides.
Oh my gosh. And was it a staggered start for each of the events?
Yeah, so most of them this time started in 3s.
Okay.
Every 30 seconds. So quite a nice amount. You often had people to run with. Yeah, depending on like the type of trail and which dog you ran, sometimes you got caught by people, or sometimes you did still catch other people, so it was quite nice. But yeah, so that third race is the one that I think everyone knows didn't go so well for me, ultimately because the dreaded thing happened, that the dog didn't have her second poo before the race. So bless her, I think she was like just needed the toilet, and the first 3k was all uphill, very gradual and runnable, and she was like running very well, but just not as well as I know she can do. So yeah, as soon as we got to the downhill bit, I think she was actually delighted to run behind me for once and just trot along.
You actually managed to have her second poo on the race, or did you?
No, this is the thing. She just won't stop. She's so much driven to run. She pooed at the end, but like she was fine. It was like 5-10 minutes after we'd finished, I finally managed to go to the toilet.
So why was that just the start and all the excitement and just not having the time to do it?
Yeah, so it is my fault basically. The start of that one is like nearly 1.5 kilometers walk from where you camp, and it's all uphill. So it's a tough like way to go to get to the start. And even when we were walking to the start, there was already a lot of other dogs around. So I was like trying to sort out Sonic before leaving him and walking him and everything. So when I took Poppy out kind of for the second time in the morning, I was like, oh, I just get her to go to the toilet on the way. Like, we've got ages on the way. But obviously in the end, because there were so many dogs around, it was just too like exciting. She just wasn't going to go. So no, like lesson learned. I'm still like learning stuff every stage. I was kicking myself because I and I could have avoided it, but it's just like the reality. Like you're tired, you're getting up early and trying to get everything done, and yeah, sometimes these things happen.
Oh, well, absolutely, and you know your dog, and you know you learn, and you know for next time. So yeah, that sounds like that wasn't maybe the best day, but at least she didn't stop halfway around. She's got a great running ethic, hasn't she?
Yeah,
Just keeps going. Which is
so that was day 4, was it? When
I was day 3, so then
day 3, right?
Day 3, stage 3. So then after that, we moved to the final region, and actually there was meant to be 5 runs there, which turned out to just be 4. So yeah, at that point you actually get a bit of a rest. So you've run that morning, and then you don't run again until the following evening for the night race, which actually was awful because I just hated waiting around to run again. Like waiting all day to go out and run at 10:30 was really difficult. But that was the short course, and that's the one where I was like, right, I'm going to pull out my wild card and Supersonic's going to come out to play. So I was really nervous as well because I just know how strong he is.
And in the dark with a head torch, presumably.
And in the dark, it was a strange idea to run him on that race with a head torch. And also what they do that day, normally like not the usual Canicross races, they seed it, so you sort of the fast people go first and then kind of descending. With the night race they reverse seed it, so the slow people go first and the fast people go at the back, which does make a really fun run. There's still 30-second gap, so you're not on top of everyone, but it's more than likely that you're going to catch people in front of you, but also people behind are going to catch you.
Oh, really?
So yeah, throwing Sonic into that kind of carnage was also like a bit of a gamble, but actually he was like unbelievable. So we started like quite near the back, but he was just so strong. It was a good I think it was near about 1.8k just all up. So I was happy, I was relaxed at the start because I just had to let him pull me, and we caught so many teams. He's just so strong. And then you sort of turn around and come back, you have a nice little flat bit along the top, and then you get the dreaded downhill bit. Unfortunately, it sort of used some of his power by then, and I did get him to run alongside me a little bit on that race. And you've got sort of this goat's track, everyone calls it, so very thin, single, bobbly, uneven, like potholes, dusty, and it zigzags basically back down the ski track. And I think it's about 500 meters long, but you drop 100 meters in just like half a kilometer. So you have to get your dog behind you if they're a puller. And I did. I don't know how. It was dark. I couldn't really see where I was going. I think we'd probably caught some people in front, which was good because I couldn't, like, he had to physically slow down. I managed to keep him behind me and kind of, basically was happy to get around alive.
Yeah, he sounds absolutely epic. I mean, he was obviously your wild card that paid off as well. So
so no, that was at that stage it was my best result and top 10 scratch, my first top 10 scratch. So no, he was incredible. Unfortunately, the second time I wanted to run him, that was also the evening stage that got cancelled.
Oh, okay.
So I had to be brave and use him on another course, which was a bit difficult, and I didn't really want to have to use him on that, but I wanted him to have another run. So
it's the great to have 2 dogs there. That's great tactics. But I mean, it's a very competitive event. Do they do kind of post-race testing at that event?
Not that I know of. Like, it is quite competitive at the top, but it's like it's super friendly as well. And they do a lot of checks when you register. So they check all your equipment, and they check even the fit of the harness on the dog. They check the length of your line, and then obviously all of the vet check as well. They do a proper vet check of the dog beforehand. But after the races, no, that it's not so serious that they do any other kind of testing.
Oh.
How many have you done now, TDMs?
It's only the second.
Your second, yeah. Do you think you'll do it again next year then?
I don't know whether to say yes or no. Like,
that's a bit too soon to ask.
Yes, I totally would love to do it, but at the same time, I also had like such an incredible experience this year. Like, I just think it would be hard to match it, to be honest, with regards to like how it went, the runs, the people I did it with. But I'm pretty sure I'll get sucked into it and sign up.
Oh, and show us your lovely t-shirt. You've got your TDM t-shirt on, haven't you? So
a TDM, so every year they have a new totally random design. It's usually super colourful.
Yeah.
So at the bottom it shows all the different stages you had. So these are the Paris, Alamon towns, TDM logo, and then on the back, I can't see what I'm doing, but
lovely.
Your name. Yeah.
Your name and the dogs' names.
Oh, cool. Lovely. Yeah, Poppy and Sonic. Oh, that's lovely. Very nice. Oh, I'm glad you had a great time. And I just wanted to sort of basically say, you know, hopefully people listening to this have sort of been inspired. I mean, I certainly have. And you've got loads of great experience as a DogFit trainer as well and a PT, you know, sort of, you know, what you're talking about, and also with the training, because that's key, you know, as you were saying earlier, even you can't really wing it, not over 7 days, the intensity, but but it sounds like the main thing is it's very inclusive, it's loads of fun. You don't have to be at the top end of the sport to take part, but you go to be part of a big community, and if your dog can handle that sort of environment, and you'll have, you know, you can actually, it can be really great fun. And the fact that you said there are lots of different breeds and ages as well of people taking part, it just sounds like it's immense fun. And like you said, you can push it as hard as you want, or just go there and have fun and even do a couple of stages. You don't even have to do them all. So it does sound like a super event. So I guess my last question really is, you know, if anyone is sort of thinking about taking that step, you know, they might be just doing occasional races, or they want to get a group of friends together to do it. What would be your advice, and how do they find out more information to you know,
so I think advice would be you could trial like a stage race that isn't as long, so that I know there's some like long, like over bank holiday weekends, some of the organizers here in England are doing like 4 stages over 3 days now, and I think that's like the perfect build up. I think if you can do that, honestly, you can do the longer one with a bit more sort of training and a bit more willpower. To find out more, they do have a website, we can share that as well. You can see like all of the routes and the trails and everything, so you can get a good idea of what was done, or of course just like contact me, and I'm happy to sort of share any information. There are like other stage races going on as well. Germany does one called Alpcross. I think that's about a week long. There's another one in France called TSB that happens in October time. So quite a lot of Brits are going over to that. That's more forest trails and sort of undulating rather than mountain hills. So there's more and more out there. It's really cool, like different types of trails. So just like get in touch and we can give some more information.
Yeah, I mean, we can put all this information in the show notes as well. And you know, thank you so much for coming on. I think that one of the takeaways is it's about the training and the preparation. And obviously, as one of our DogFit trainers, we have got some packages with you which are around nutrition and kind of next stage Canicross training, which we'll put those links in as well. But making sure that the dogs and the humans and everyone's ready to go, and that's what makes it having such a nice time. So
yeah, exactly.
So interesting. I think Gal's entering next year.
My dogs will travel. I don't know about that. That's half the problem. It's having the dogs that can handle it. But it sounds really cool though, I must admit.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Super. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thank you both for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good luck with all the training and what's ever next. We look forward to watching you on Instagram.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Talk Canicross. We really hope that you've enjoyed it. But don't forget to hit subscribe so we can keep you up to date and let you know when the next episode comes out. Happy canicrossing.